So, like every week, there's lots of brilliant questions. My feeling reading some of them was that it's really important that we get on the same page with how we're using the terminology, because if universal consciousness gets mixed with mind at large or other terms, then it creates a lot of confusion. Because in these meetings, not everywhere, but we've got ongoing agreement with Bernardo um, to, in these meetings, be quite specific about what they mean. What would be great before we dive into the questions that people had prepared is just get clarity on that. So I'd love it if everyone can put in the chat their best understanding of the difference between universal consciousness and mind at large. And then Bernardo, my request to you would be to scan the answers, and then if there's repeated misunderstandings, we can pick those up before we start going into the um, uh, deeper questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of it is language use, and everybody is right from a given perspective. Like Honey is right that there is no difference between mind at large and universal consciousness, in the same sense that there is no difference between you and me, or me and mind at large, or you and universal consciousness. There is only one field of subjectivity. But linguistically or operationally, it is useful to define the words differently. It's useful for conversation, it's useful for discourse. So from that usability or usefulness perspective, it's handy to say universal consciousness is the sum total of everything, the entire field of subjectivity, and we will arbitrarily define mind at large as the part of that field that is not encompassed by an alter. In other words, by a living organism, metabolizing organism. So Kiri is right as well. But of course, that's a linguistic difference. Just because it's useful for us to use different terms differently, it enhances our ability to communicate. But fundamentally, there is only one thing, and there is only universal consciousness. Everything else is reducible to it. A bottle of water, a person, a cat, a quasar, a black hole. It's just that in conversation, it's useful to define terms more specifically.
And would it be correct to say everything is reducible to universal consciousness, but not everything is reducible to mind at large in the
If
way
we,
we are using it?
correct. Yeah, in the way we are using the words, that's correct, yes. So the inanimate universe would be reducible to mind at large, but not living beings. Living beings would be reducible only to universal consciousness.
We now run a weekly membership program with Bernardo Kastrup that you can join at withrealityinmind.com. This includes weekly Q&As, special guests like Rupert Spira, Michael Levin, Federico Fagin. There's an international, vibrant community of researchers, academics, meditators, mystics, philosophers, poets, creatives, musicians, anyone that wants to deeply understand this philosophy and its potential implications for their lives. In this next clip, Bernardo explains his motivation for wanting to start this program, which include helping anyone that wants to deeply understand this, but also helping anyone that wants to become an ambassador for idealism.
For me, personally, helping create not only a community, I'm not trying to do activism here, I'm not trying to build an army of analytic idealists, but creating a community in which a deeper understanding of idealism in general, perhaps analytic idealism in particular, because that's what I can offer more, but a community around idealism that truly and deeply understands what it is, more than the average person who has heard about analytic idealism. I'm still getting today, after 15 years, mostly the same questions I used to get in year one. So progress in the world at large is very slow, but within a sort of a nurtured community, I think we can achieve a lot more and go a lot more in depth. And to use a word I used with Amir when we were discussing this, I don't know whether it's a goal or just a wish, so I'll keep it as a wish. I would like to help foment a community of ambassadors of idealism, people who will be equipped to go out into their communities, go into the world, and not preach analytic idealism, but when the subject comes up, they will be a sort of a source of light, an informed source of clarifications, of arguments, of reason, basically, a source of reason in their communities. And maybe that starts something that grows organically. By nature, I'm also a natural introvert, so playing a public role is fairly unnatural to me. It's something I can do because I learned, life forces you very early on to behave like an extrovert. In science, in the corporate world, and especially when you're a book writer, you have to put your face out there and talk to people, confront the world. But by nature, I am an introvert, and so and this may sound a little bit egocentric. Maybe it is. Um, it would be nice to have more voices out there, so I could feel more comfortable myself to allow myself to disappear in my Swiss Alps mountain every now and then, and knowing that there is a whole group of people out there who are carrying the torch still. So yeah, those were my sincere motivations for this.